Welcome to Breaking News Wahala one-on-one segment. Every week we bring you one interesting guest to talk about interesting conversation, serious matter, and real situation. Today our guest is a TikTok star, he's a Facebook star, he's also an activist, and I think he's kind of a preacher. I'll call him a preacher for today's section. Welcome, Lucifer. Lucifer, how are you doing?
See, and the only reason why all these people, all these homophobes, still dey para for your side now because say last you stress, you fine. He be that he give them competition. It's a big cook. He dey clean. He dey babysit. You neat. Your boss dey smell shit. You dey peace. And then leave am more. One no try yo.
I'm very well, Chimereze. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited having you. But I want to start with your name first, Lucifer. Why that name? Every other name, why did you decide to choose the name that everybody is running away from? Why Lucifer?
I just believe that we are. There's a saying that we grew up watching in story times and tales by moonlight and Papa Jasco. It says we are only but tools in the hands of the maker. I believe that we are tools that are used to educate and re-educate ourselves, and there's a need for people to be aware. Lucifer is a beautiful name in so many of our traditional languages in Nigeria. We call these names, but when it is transcribed or interpreted in with the form Lucifer, it brings about a negative connotation because of social interpretation, which is not so. Lucifer, from dictionary meaning, just means morning star. Like it would be Irawo, Toton, or like in the East. There are different names within our different tribes for what we call light and shining star. Yeah, so that's
I think in Igbo will call light Okuna Chazi. I think Lucifer will be Okuna Chazi in Igbo. Thank you for being our guest here at Q Talk. I'm so eager to have you. So Lucifer, let's tell us a little bit about you yourself growing up and life itself. Let's start from there. Who is Lucifer?
Who is Lucifer? So I'm a non-binary person. I'm a gay non-binary person. My pronouns are he, they. I hail from Rivers State, Okrika.
You are from Rivers State?
Oh yes, I am from Rivers State.
Amazing. I'm from Rivers State too, a chain. I know. I keep on forgetting, but go on. Okrika.
Yes, I'm from Okrika. Ijo, speaking part of Nigeria, of the South. I had my primary education. I was born in Lagos, had my primary education from nursery through Lagos, through Port Harcourt. I had my university degree in Niger State in northern Nigeria. I went back to Lagos after my youth service for School of Theology with my then movement in collaboration with some universities in the United States. Yeah, so I did a couple of businesses, been in and out, involved in advocacy, activism, and just speaking out for queer persons, gays, lesbians, bisexuals, transgenders, intersex persons living in Nigeria. So along the line, I did get married. I'd also been an advocate for HIV, just general sensitizations, informations, teaching, and raising awareness in keeping with the goal to get the new cases to zero by the year 2030. Yeah, so that's pretty much about me, basically. Yes.
Wow, you talked about you being an advocate for LGBTQ persons. You also talked about being married. But let's go first to the advocacy. When did you start your advocacy? Did you start it back when you were in Nigeria, or when? Because right now, I know you're not in Nigeria, you are in the UK. Or did you start it when you got to the UK? When did you start your activism?
So I moved to Niger State in the year 2007, and I had started like civil society training just about that time. I started doing like peer educator works and things like that. So say about 2008, thereabout, I had started. I'd worked with the likes of Darlene Doughty, Rashida Williams, Joseph Seredol,
And this
Oliver,
was in Nigeria.
all in Nigeria. I'd
Wow.
only been out of Nigeria. I left Nigeria in 2022. So I'll be 3 years out of Nigeria. I haven't been out of Nigeria for a long time.
Wow. Carry
Yeah,
on.
so I've been involved like in just the basic advocacy, development of like advocacy toolkits, policies, sensitizations, community advocacies, and things like that. I remember in 2011 we were at the National Assembly. I was part of the team that went, to a couple of public hearings in the National Assembly for the same-sex prohibition bill that was then to be not yet passed, but then that was undergoing public hearing to be passed by the National Assembly. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's amazing. That was the time President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan had said there were no homosexuals in Nigeria. It is amazing to know. See, we need to keep record of our history because we know that people are trying to erase queer history. You would think that major newspapers and major networks will carry such historical event, but I don't believe I saw anything about that protest.
There were a couple of publications, but you know, they were rather more politically, more like backdoor framework work than just loud. Because it's one thing I say, like it's one thing for the government or the legislative arm of the government to pass a bill or a law interaction. It's another thing for the people, for the populace to be sensitized or to, be aware of things or how it's supposed to be done. So even in Nigeria today, if the bill is passed to decriminalize same-sex um, law, it would take a while before the people will become like the law. It will take a while to take away stigma and discrimination. It will take a while for people to know that people are born gay and that is how they are. And people love who they love, not because of they choose to, but because that is how they were made to love. Yeah, so
Now let's talk. Do you believe that Nigeria will ever come to uncriminalize same-sex marriage? Do you believe that
oh yes,
truly?
I do. I do believe that in the future Africa would champion the war against
Homophobia.
discriminations or human rights or homophobia, as you term, yes.
Now let's go back to the other things you said earlier, which is that you are a non-binary person. So many people who are watching might not be educated about what these pronouns and being non-binary is. So give us a briefing. What do you mean by I am a non-binary person? How can you explain that to a common man who might be watching our interview?
Um, I would like to play to the Nigerian context. When I was younger, I was very in touch with my feminine side. So I liked the tea parties, um, teddy bears, the plaits in the hairs, the combs, the makeup, the nails, and all the things. But on the flip side, I liked the gym. I liked a couple of masculine things or perceived masculine things. And I got lost into because within the gay community, there's like roles, preferences that we take on. And sometimes we can conflict these things that because we're this way, maybe you're this submissive part. But it wasn't what, really gave me the fun of or the pleasure I wanted. Moving overseas, I got to understand, and I think there was just a general awakening, in the world as to persons that are in touch with both sides, that do not subscribe to or do not feel like I'm inherently a man or if you have intersex persons and within the spectrum, if there can be binaries, what we preach is that there are people that exist within that spectrum of they don't subscribe to any of the norms. So yes, there is there are non-binary persons, they are non-conformists to gender non-conforming persons as well. But for my own self, I just feel like I'm non-binary, gender fluid. I can feel like exuding a particular masculine energy. I can feel like exuding a blend of my feminine energy. I'm always in touch with the both from all of my activities, from my dressing, my sense, the way I talk, my attitude, my character, all these things blend. So I do not subscribe to either of the binary genders, and I see myself as a non-binary person. That's how I identify as a non-binary person.
Is that what the common man in Nigeria will call being a boy girl? When they say this is a boy
So
girl.
it's not necessarily boy girl, but it can be within that space as well. Yes, not because you have like people that play the bottom roles that can be effeminate and still not be non-binary. They are gay men. They identify as cis men. We are under the trans family because we do not subscribe to either of the genders. So as much as I'm not saying I feel like I'm a woman, no, I'm in touch with my both sides. I feel like my pronouns are he, they, because I'm more tilted towards like my masculine side. But then again, I'm in touch with my feminine side, so I won't be apologetic to express myself in the way that I feel like where I dress or in the gestures I display, in conversations or at meetings or things like that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is a whole lot of information to consume. But let's go back to the part where you talked about you being married. Let's have a conversation. Okay, this is where I want to ask the question from. When you grew up, did you know you were queer?
Yes, I did.
So why did you still choose to marry a woman even though you knew you were queer?
Because of the heteronormative culture. I wasn't one of those children that growing up after discovering that you were queer, being actively involved within the community, I felt like they were going to get married. I was one of those strong advocates, but I got to a point where I was battling merging my spirituality and my sexuality, and knowing the environmental structure where we come from, being the first child too as well, it kind of puts some level of pressure as well on me to act in a certain way. It's not one of the things I'm really proud of. But then again, I was in training ministry. Part of the expectations were to grow. And I think my selfish nature played through that. You factor in, your family, your choices, wanting kids, the societal expectations. And I think they informed my decision as at then, which I don't think that anybody should let themselves get to. Yeah.
Wow. So how did you dissolve the marriage? Did you come out to your wife to say, I kind of feel like I have, carried you. I don't want to use the word deceive, but I have kind of I'm not really where I want to be. How did that conversation with your wife go?
Well, for me, it's on multiple layers because it wasn't just that I was gay. I was also living with HIV, and I didn't get into the marriage not informing my partner then that
So you informed your partner that you were queer.
so I had to be open. about, and it was these were conversations we had. We were good friends. I just feel like any other marriage as well, since deteriorated and over time, it wasn't like I committed an act or coming out, so no, no, no. Um, when I had always been still actively working with the community, even if I wasn't actively
And
participating.
did you have HIV before you married or after you married?
Yes, before I was married, I had
Before you
been
married, and she was okay
hospitalized.
with all of those conversations. So now,
Yes, she was negative, and yes, she never. I've been undetectable for the longest of time, so that's part of the advocacy message that we put up, because there are no proper information as regards HIV, and it creates a certain amount of stigma and discrimination for persons living with the virus, because people are not properly informed that when the minute you commence your treatment and you're able to attain a status of being undetectable, you lack the ability to transfer the virus. No one can acquire the virus from you the minute you commence your treatment. So HIV at the moment cannot be cured, but there's treatment for HIV. And the minute you commence your treatment for HIV, the minute you get to undetectable status, you really cannot infect any other person with the virus. You cannot transmit the virus, not infect, because we no longer use those technology.
if you are just joining us, this is Q Talk One-on-One segment, and we have been having a very interesting conversation with Lucifer, our guest here at the studio. We have had a series of conversation. Please, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to our YouTube channel and comment in the comment section down below. We'd like to know what your thoughts are on this conversation, and if you have questions for Lucifer, please write it in the comment section. We'll make sure that Lucifer and I read it, and we could come back and redo another segment answering your question, because I know there are a lot of things that Nigerians are trying to grip, and we cannot say all those, we cannot pass all those information within 15 minutes. But in wrapping it up, we're just going to talk about HIV now. Lucifer, you have lived with HIV for a long time. What are the stigma, and how can we change the stigma with people who are living with HIV? For example, we talked about U equals U, which is that you will take your antivirus drug to a point where the viral load is almost like it doesn't exist. It is suppressed, that you cannot transmit it. So we know all of that, but we still see a lot of stigma happening within our community. How can we help educate, one, prevent and control, and how can we change the stigma with those living with HIV?
Thank you very much. One of my key messages to ending stigma and discrimination is, first of all, dealing with the internalized stigma and internalized discrimination. Because sometimes persons living with HIV as well, through their process, are not fully healed. That they first of all discriminate against themselves. They feel they feel all the negative sense. There's all the emotional rush and pressure, and until we grow to a point where and you're able to speak out about it, where we become visible. It's like with the LGBT community, it's like with the gay struggle, it's like with the struggle for the Black lives as well. We have to constantly be aware of the need to tell our stories, to lend our voice, to know that this is bigger than just me. We're talking about the virus. You can choose to bash me, or you can choose to have that conversation about the virus, because you might think that it is far from you. You might haul on me or hate or discriminate, but one of the things I know is that my story, I was motivated by a couple of other persons' stories. And I know that my story as well would inspire other people. So it's in this little contribution, to change the world. To win HIV begins with me. And that's just what I believe, that to win HIV begins with each and every one of us, whether you're living with the virus or whether you're not living with the virus. If you're not living with the virus, there's a need for you to constantly check yourself. Are you, undergoing regular medical check to be sure that you're not you haven't acquired the virus. If you have multiple sexual partners, are you taking precautionary measures like enrolling for pre-exposure prophylaxis to also in line with getting the goals to end the virus? So yes, we all have a role to play in this, and I just feel personally that in lending my voice out is doing my own little bit, to the larger chalk of the world's contribution to ending the virus.
In closing, I just want to ask, how many years, if you don't mind, how many years have you been living with this virus, if I may ask?
I have been living with the virus 18 going on 19 years now.
Wow. Thank you, Lucifer. This has been an amazing segment here on Q with Lucifer. I have been educated, and I'm sure you too have been educated. Please, 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 please put your comments in the comment section. Lucifer and I will read them, comment on them, and still do, because there are a lot of questions right now that are flowing through my head that I want to ask. But please subscribe, like, and stay tuned. My name remains Chimereze Henry Ahonaya. Peace out.